The town woke each morning to the sound of hammers, not the sharp clatter of factories, but the slow, steady rhythm of one man working by hand. In a small workshop at the edge of Maple Creek lived Thomas Hale, a carpenter whose name was never printed in newspapers, but whose work stood quietly in nearly every home. Thomas was old now. His hands were thick with scars, his back bent like the beams he once shaped. He had built cradles for newborns, tables where families ate their first meals together, and coffins for those who had taken their last breath. Wood, to him, was not lifeless. It carried memory. His wife had passed many winters ago, and his only son, Samuel, had left for the western railroads and never returned. Letters stopped coming. Seasons kept moving. Still, every morning, Thomas opened his shop. One autumn evening, as red leaves drifted across the dirt road, a stranger arrived in town. The man was thin, his coat worn, his eyes tired. He asked the grocer for work, then the blacksmith, then the mill. Each shook their head. Someone pointed toward the edge of town. The carpenter might need help, they said. The stranger knocked softly. Thomas looked up from his bench and studied the man for a long moment before nodding. "Can you measure straight and listen carefully?" Thomas asked. "Yes, sir," the man replied. That was enough. They worked side by side through the shortening days. Thomas taught, without many words, how to read the grain, how to wait for the right cut, how patience could save what force would ruin. At night, they shared simple meals and quiet stories. The stranger never spoke of his past. Thomas never asked. One morning, Thomas began a new project. It was a small wooden chest, finely joined, smoother than anything he had built in years. He chose his best oak, polished it with care, and carved the lid with gentle hands. The stranger watched, puzzled. "Who's it for?" he asked. Thomas paused. "For someone who doesn't know he needs it yet." As winter crept in, Thomas grew weaker. His breath came shorter. Some days he could only sit and watch as the stranger worked. Yet the old man smiled more than he had in years. One snowy evening, Thomas placed the finished chest on the bench. Inside, he set a folded letter, a small carved bird, and a faded photograph of a young boy standing beside a proud carpenter. "This was my son," Thomas said softly. "If he ever comes back, this is for him." The stranger's hands trembled. That night, Thomas did not wake. The town gathered for his burial, carried in a coffin he had once built for another. The workshop stood silent. Snow covered the doorway. After the funeral, the stranger returned alone to the shop. He opened the chest again, staring at the photograph until tears fell onto the wood. The next morning, he left Maple Creek. Years passed. Then one spring day, a finely crafted bench appeared outside the town church. No name was carved into it, only a small wooden bird on the corner. Soon after, repairs were made across town. Doors that no longer creaked, steps that no longer groaned, tables strengthened without charge. People whispered. They spoke of a carpenter who worked at dawn and vanished by dusk. In the old workshop, now cleaned and restored, the chest sat empty, except for a new photograph placed gently inside. It showed an older man standing beside a younger one, their hands the same, their smiles quiet and full. Thomas Hale's final gift was never the chest. It was the hands that carried his craft forward, shaping wood, shaping lives, and keeping his name alive in every silent joint and steady beam long after the hammers began to sound again.